Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. Since I don't do chairman anymore, and I don't do the Metro reports anymore, I don't hurt as many people's feelings anymore. Because in the weekly reports, I didn't go out of my way to make the girls cry and the guys, piss their pants. But for the first time in their life, they saw it when you write the report, I would write back in 40 or 50 font, big letters, red letters. You stupid fucking cunt, you're damaged goods. Or you did this. Anyway. And then the chair positions I had, I didn't pull any punches. I mean, I talked just like, and a lot of guys and gals, almost everybody's thin-skinned, almost everybody. They're not subject to criticism. They don't take criticism that well. And I learned in the military as young Army officers, no such thing as constructive criticism. None. All criticism, depending on how thick your skin is considered harmful by you, not by the guy or gal telling you. But I never changed any. I just continue to, if criticism could be valued from 1 to 10, I'm always 11. But a lot of people fall out because they can't take the criticism. And I'm not around, I'm not sticking around for you to learn how to get thick skin. That's not my job. That was your parents' job and they fucked it up. So, but I still resurrect, and as I sarcastically say, I flip a lot. But as I told you the first day, I've been told, since the first year of the seminar, including by Bruce Whipple, Dan, if you toned it down, you could increase the people that will listen to you by, I don't know, a lot of numbers. And, but I'm not as effective. And so I experimented from 1993 to the end of 1994, and I wasn't as effective. I just wasn't. I didn't get the results out of you because there wasn't enough shock value. Shock and awe. And unfortunately, fear works. It's a shitty way to run a railroad, but fear works. And even though I tell you fear is false expectations appearing real, you intellectually understand that, but you don't believe it in your heart. Fear is not false expectations appearing real. It's real shit. And of course, when something bad happens to you or happens to the QLA model and you hit a speed bump that's truly a speed bump like we have out on our driveway out here, and you think it's Mount Everest, you think back to that line, oh, fuck, I mean, this is real as shit. I mean, I'm in the shit. And I'm saying this for a couple of reasons. Number one, the biggest hits you're going to take when you leave here tomorrow are in the first few weeks because you're unsure of yourself. It's like you're learning to ski for the first time. And maybe Marcus skied like great from the first time he put on skis, but learning to ski for the first time, you're unsure of yourself and your legs go wobbly. And I remember the first time I was skiing like this, whatever they call that, when you go down the hill with a pigeon toed. And the first time you do anything, you're unsure of yourself. You can't do that with this model. You got to act, I keep saying like you had a pair, but you've got to act as if you have no limits to your abilities from day one, from minute one, from second one. You got to act like it's the last minute of the last Super Bowl or the last World Cup or whatever the athletic event is. From the minute one. You got to run towards the gunfire as if they're really shooting bullets. And you got to metaphorically kill every motherfucker on the other side. Otherwise, we all have an Achilles heel someplace. We all have a chink in our armor someplace. Some of you, it's because you can't talk is intellectually what I call Oxbridge kind of English. And you know it. And some of you, most of you write poorly. But that's just a generational thing. That's been the last 10, 20 years. But you know down deep inside what your Achilles heel is. Your height, your looks, your weight, your color, your name. Everybody in this room knows their weak suit, or should know their weak suit by the time you're this age. Even the kid in the back of the room should know by now. Who shot John? Who's on first? That's a saying the Abbott and Costello used to say, comedians from America. And you've got to go out, you've got to come out smoking. And the guys and the girls that we've showed you webinars heretofore came out smoking. And they stumbled. I mean, some of the stumbles were big, and that's what you're worried about. If I really fuck something up, and when we were being interviewed before dinner, and now you're not the first Punjab who fell off the turnip truck here, and certain ethnicities are more worried about criticism than others. Certain ones, okay. Chinese don't like to be embarrassed. Well, nobody likes to be embarrassed, but what the kids that you've seen, the success stories, all pretty much learn to engage in self-deprecation. Self-deprecation. So when you do something wrong, you kind of, remember I said when you laugh and giggle, it's a coping mechanism so your brain can re-gear. Well, they engage in, I told you, especially in healthcare, let's say they ask you a question and you try to answer something you don't know, which is going to happen. Whether it's healthcare, IT, artificial intelligence, and you realize as the words come out of your mouth, you know it's the wrong answer. And you want to suck it back in and try to pretend you didn't say it. And then the other side reacts, and now you've got your foot in your mouth. What are you going to do? Dan said I didn't have to know anything, right? But I also told you there's only 6 answers we have. And you have now developed an 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th answer because you think you know a little bit about whatever you're talking about. And then now a lot of people today are too polite and they won't call you on it. But I would rather them call you on it because if they leave there thinking you're an idiot, you've lost them. They're not coming back. Or they're not going to respond to you when you call back the next time or you see them the next time. And so I hope the people that when you screw up, call you on it. Well, that's not really true, you know. This and this of the 2019 said, oh, yeah. But that's what keeps the kids from picking up the phone. That's what keeps the kids from having these meetings because they know that when they are face-to-face, there is a high probability that you're going to step on your dick. And the only way that you get past that is to step on your dick. And the better of you, or the better of the kids that have come through the seminar over the years, engage in self-deprecation. They kind of poke fun at themselves. Remember, I thought oil and gas came up 2 fucking holes. 2. Instead of 1 with a separator at the top. But anyway, I didn't know anything. And aside the fact that the industry hated me because I didn't know anything, and I, of course, knowing my personality, I made fun of people that knew something that were poor, and I knew nothing that was rich. That's a whole other story. I could give a whole other seminar on what not to do. Okay, but you've got to remember that. Don't be afraid. You know, they say fail fast and fall forward, and all those cheap cliches. Well, they're cheap cliches, but they're true. They're true. You may start healthcare at the lower end, home health, and hate it. You may hate it because 75 to 90% of the people you're going to deal with are of a different ethnicity than you. You may start in the bottom quadrant of assisted living. And after changing 3 or 4 bedpans and wiping 4 or 5 asses, this is not for me. You may be in assisted living in the bottom quadrant, and after 5 or 6 patients die, and you got to move them from the bed into whatever you call the morgue. Fuck, that's not for me. And I can go on and on and on. And I can give you examples I get for every industry anybody's thinking of. Almost every, that's an exaggeration, almost every industry. And so you're going to make mistakes. And even though, you know, I gave this speech to our children when they were growing up, and the I mean, whether they thought they were cheap cliches or not, they never told me, but whether they responded to what I said was a whole other thing. And so if they didn't respond, I guess that I didn't sell them good enough or well enough. But you're going to make mistakes, kids. And the faster you get out of the blocks, the faster you decide on the industry, the faster you decide on a chairman, and you go after that person like a dog after a bone. And once you decide, the industry is not that hard to decide on. And I've already said that I would rather be in an industry you don't know anything about. But some of you are already in industries that you know quite a bit about, and you're satisfied in your own mind that that's what you're going to roll up. Okay. Check back with me in 6 or 26 weeks and tell me if you still think the same thing. But you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail, and that's. It sounds awful for me to say that's okay, but that's okay. Another way of looking at it is the quicker you and the faster you fail, the better off you are. Because most of you, even though I call you meatheads and imbeciles, are smart enough to only make a mistake once. Now, some of you, not just this room, but some of you that have come to here can make the same mistakes 10, 12 times. And then you're damaged emotionally, but those people are damaged mentally. I mean, you shouldn't have to do the same goddamn thing wrong 10 times. Last night you saw Andrew Carnegie. By the way, the homework was for you to do the affirmations and comment on the movie. Some of you did one or the other. So Andrew Carnegie, my virtual mentor, who never got an award from the Queen, it was the Queen when he was alive, Queen Victoria, and then the king, he died, what's his name, I forget the name of the oldest son of Queen Victoria that was king when he died. What are some of the insights that you gathered from Mr. Carnegie, other than he was, when somebody says you're 4'10", then that probably means you're not 4'10". Although now he's grown. I hear in some stories I've read, he was 5'2", which, having been to his house, having seen his furniture, having been to his master bedroom, and been to the place where you shave in front, and in the mirror, I can see my chest in the mirror over the basin, where you shave, you do. So, anyway, any comments about, yes, ma'am, in the back.
His emotional baggage wasn't zero and wasn't really close to zero, because he always felt like he was torn between the two of the egalitarianism and wanting to rise up, and it kind of was like this inner battle. So he wanted to help, which is good, and he
wanted to help who?
People when he became rich.
Okay, well, no. He tried to clean up his act by donating money and getting rid of his money. He's the guy that said, if you die a rich man, you died poorly. And if you were born a rich man, you were born poorly. He said the worst thing you can ever do is leave money to your progenies, your kids. He that's more or less the 1,700 schools and libraries and things that are named after him here in Britain, mostly south of here, are because he wanted to leave a legacy. But with all that, I didn't mean to cut you short, but anyway, go ahead. What else?
I was just going to say that for Homestead, he was trying to talk about the workers' rights, but then he went and brought the whole militia in. And
let me stop you. A good comment. Governments give a lot of lip service, but what governments say and what they do are two different things. But they give the lip service so they can get sound bites on the news and newspapers. But when push came to shove, he came to Scotland on a holiday to play golf for several months while his hatchet men did horrible things to his employees. Go ahead.
And I don't think he would have come across as such a big hypocrite or hypocrite at all if he'd advocated for their rights, the workers' rights, and then proceeded to do what he did.
Yeah, but he didn't really care about the workers' rights. That's the point. If I was a foot taller and black and had any athletic ability, I might have been able to play in the NBA. But I have no athletic ability. I'm not a foot taller and I'm not black. Okay? 87% of the people who play basketball are black. But anyway, that's what that means. I'm not a racist comment. But the fact that he knew what was right, the right thing to do, would have cost him money, great quantities of money. It would have cost him many of the contracts he had, and many of the contracts he stole. Remember the guy that helped him out when he first got going, and then he got in trouble, and then he, more or less stepped on his head and made sure his head stayed under the water. That's more or less life. When I told you yesterday, when we were talking about goals and affirmations, shit happens. I mean, bad things happen. This young man that's not here today, he went home. He made the comment, if this seminar was in France, I wouldn't be going home. If this seminar was in Africa, I wouldn't be going home. But since he only lives 2 hours away, he ascertained, and probably rightfully so, if he didn't go home to whatever he went home for, a sick relative, I think, he would have taken a ration of shit. And he probably would have. So we know, almost always we know, generally speaking, unless we're really delusional, what's the more or less right thing to do. Almost everybody knows the difference between right and wrong, and there's shades of it, and you can get them confused. But, running over a kid in a crosswalk, we know is wrong. In most parts of the world, in some parts of the world, that maybe not be wrong. We know eating babies, human babies, is wrong, although there's 2 or 3 places in the world that they eat babies. So we pretty much know. Unfortunately, the choices you're going to have to make aren't going to be that clear cut. That's why I tell you, if you follow the templates, 99% of the time, I've already made a decision for you. And the reason you don't follow, one of the reasons, other than you're disorganized, lazy, blah, blah, you don't follow the templates, is because on a moral basis, you don't agree with what the template says. All the templates are moral, legal, and ethical. Every fucking one of them. But the real you comes out when you're trying to buy a business from a 75-year-old couple that aren't that bright. And they don't want to use a lawyer. And they say, whatever you, just put it down, I'll sign whatever you give me. That's a conundrum. That could be considered a moral dilemma. It's your first deal that you haven't done yet. They say, put whatever you want down and I'll sign it. You push out interest, 100% seller finance, interest in principal 35 years from now? What do? Or does Marcus leave him a loaf of bread and a can of peanut butter to make sure they can eat the next couple of days? And these things really happen, for real. When you don't really have to hammer out over a kitchen table with really old couples. With me, you would. And the longer you negotiate, they won't consider it negotiating. The longer you're talking to them, the more tired they get. And most people, the more tired they get, they make bad decisions. And I've seen where the old man drinks too much. And the more he drinks, the looser the requirements get for the deal. So there's things that you're going to have to cross that bridge when you get to it. But Andrew Carnegie made, in my judgment, not just in my judgment, a lot of poor decisions. Of course, his big cross on his back was he wanted to make his mother proud. And his mother wanted him to be able to drive in a carriage up the town of Dunfermline, to show everybody that when they left with their tail between their legs with no money. And supposedly, when you talk to the people, not just at Guthrie Castle, but in the history at Carnegie Institute, Carnegie Mellon in the United States, he was a mama's boy. Well, I was a mama's boy. I was connected to my mother's hip for the first 10 years. My cousins, I might have mentioned this, said Danny didn't breastfed till he was 11 and didn't walk until he was 14. Now, I have two or three older cousins, all girls, that thought that, that my association with my mom was too close. Because I was a mama's boy when I was a little kid. How I turned from a mama's boy to a monster. Somebody was going to write a book about this a few years ago. From mama's boy to monster. In, at that time, 70 years. But what else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
I couldn't help but start to think, when he hired armed guards, the Pinkertons, was he paying those more than he was paying the workers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Pinkertons comes from Glasgow, by the way. It was his first proper private eye company. He used to have a big eye on the business cards, as I recall. And Pinkerton sold for $2.4 billion about 6 or 8 years ago to the largest security firm. I think it was G4. Yeah, he was paying them a lot more. There was a study, and I never could verify it, so I don't normally use the stat, but I'm going to use it now. The clubs that the Pinkerton private eyes used to hit the employees cost more than a week's wages that he paid them. The people were getting hit. The clubs. Because they weren't just, pieces of wood that Marcus would sell you. I mean, these were proper, mahogany or some crap. And to put it in perspective, and the Pinkertons were well-armed, well-fed, well-clothed, well-housed. They stayed at the good hotels, to the extent they had good hotels in those days. And he, and the men, there's no telling how many men died, but certainly a lot have died. For an example, when you go, for those of you that have been to the Wall of China in recent years, and I have, the new government story is the Wall of China was built by volunteers, and there's no bones. It's estimated 10 million people are buried in the Wall of China in the years they built it. They were all volunteers. That's the new. What's even funnier is the pyramids. For those of you who have been to the pyramids recently, and Sally and I have, that's their new. They borrowed it from the Chinese. That all the pyramids, all the people that worked in the pyramids for 2,500 years that are buried there were volunteers. Volunteers. And they're trying to take away, how they, the slave driver with the whip and the guys pulling stones, they're trying to do away with all those type artifacts. Yes, you had a question, ma'am.
I really asked this only from the business and financial perspective, but the damages that the workers caused, the additional cost of the guards and everything else, wouldn't it have been just simply smarter to do the math and raise the wages?
Yeah, well, do the math. Well, it became a moral issue or an issue of principle. Whether the principle was right or wrong, workers had no rights then, or almost next to no rights. And the big guys, the icons, that built this country, or not this country, well, actually this country and the U.S., weren't interested in their fucking opinions. Yeah? They knew what was best. They knew that they had to get the railroad finished across the country. They knew all these things were best. Now, towards the end of that, those iconic careers, like when Rockefeller controlled 98 or 99% of the oil refinery in the United States and was the richest in the world by multiples, and then that's when the United States Supreme Court broke up his monopoly. Yes, they could have done the numbers. When we coronated the castle to get ready, and Sally was running around, we had this building, fortunately, making all the suites. We built a lot of the suites that you're staying in have new bathrooms, because before, like 2 suites would share a bathroom. Well, now everybody's got their own bathroom because of Corona. And so I haven't done the numbers, the sums, but, for us to get Corona'd up, talking about just do the math, I'm sure that we've easily recouped those costs. But that's not always why business decisions are made. And in the B schools, even the bad B schools, teach, do the numbers, and there's a decision that should clearly be the right one vis-a-vis the numbers. But that's not how business decisions are made. And when we talked about the conglomerates hiving off or dissecting assets away, it's not just based on numbers. It could be based on personality, geographic location, etc. Laws, state laws, country laws change, the EU. But in theory, that's how business decisions are supposed to be made. It either pencils out or it doesn't pencil out. But life's not that simple, and that's why the kids, when they get out of grad school or they get out of the university and they go into work, they see decisions that upper management and very senior management are making that don't make sense, pound and pence or dollar and cents, because they've been made for another reason and not just in an equilibrium, in an equal world or a fair world, which depends on whose side you're on for fair. That's exactly what they should do, what you alluded to. But that was probably one of the strangest things for me when I came back from the military. I finished school, and then I got a job, and I saw a lot of decisions being made that didn't make dollar cents. And I was 25 then. I realized that these decisions are made for something else. Gulf Oil, many years ago, my CFO was the CFO of Gulf Oil, and the largest shareholder of Gulf Oil was a Mellon family in Pittsburgh. And the CEO of Gulf Oil had built for Gulf Oil a 107-foot long yacht for the company, which was 3 feet longer than the Mellon yacht. 3 feet. And Mrs. Mellon, it's no secret, found out about it and nagged her husband and his brother, who were in control of the stock, that it's not right that the company that we have the most stock in has a yacht 3 feet longer. So then they built a yacht that was 10 feet longer than the Gulf yacht, and they fired the chairman, the CEO, and most of the board. Not because of the yacht, but they said that they thought that the performance wasn't in line with the economy. They got probably got some Deloitte economists to write some paper. So a lot of decisions aren't made for that. Anything else about, thank you, YouTube.